Hi, my name is Andrew Kinney. I'm an attorney in Minnesota. I'm licensed in Wisconsin, Ohio, and New York as well. I work at Hoagland Law Offices. I'm here today to discuss Social Security disability. I've practiced in this area since 1992. Social Security Disability 201. This is set up somewhat like a loose classroom format. There are other videos that discuss basic concepts, foundational concepts. We're moving into more detail. I'm going to address something that seems simple on its face. What is disability, at least in terms of Social Security disability? And hopefully it can dispel a lot of misunderstanding about Social Security disability. I was watching Judge Judy on TV last night, and there's unnecessary drama, but in there, occasionally there are people that have Social Security disability. They're approved, right? So what we have is, the setup is that someone has some disagreement. They're in front of Judge Judy and the cameras, and Judge Judy always, or at least, well, especially last night in the episode I saw, starts attacking the person for being disabled, which is fascinating. One thing I've learned in the 20 years of my work, I think she did family law work, I do Social Security disability. One thing I've learned very clearly is that Social Security disability does not, by any stretch of the imagination, hand out benefits. I do tell everyone that work is better. I tell them if they call us and they're thinking of to stop working, I say, well, work with your doctor to try to work as long as you can, and when you can't, then call us. I tell them that over and over. You get more money if you're working. You get disability insurance coverage and more disability payments per month if you work. You need to create the best work history you can, but at some juncture, and this is so eminently logical, it befuddles me, but at some juncture, someone has medical problems that lead them to be unable to work full time. Now, I'm unsure with Judge Judy if she understands that the legal standard under the regulations is you're unable to work full time. If someone can work part time, not only can some of those people apply for disability, but they can be approved for disability if they meet the monthly earnings guidelines. So, what is disability? Well, I'll explain it, but what it isn't. It isn't the ability to go on a TV show and argue your rights that someone didn't pay a security deposit or something. It isn't, disability is not having trouble finding a job. That's unemployment. Disability is not that, I think I have a problem, but I'm not treating for it, so I'm disabled. Disability is a medical disability that's confirmed in evidence. Now, I'm unsure the experience that Judge Judy has. I know she works with people that lie a lot. The problem is that she decides lying. With disability, it's objective evidence. There are disagreements about mental health and how objective you can really be, but ultimately, if there's a disability and someone's approved for Social Security disability, there's medical evidence, not just that someone talks to a psychiatrist or psychologist, not that they go to 5 visits and say they're depressed. There are objective, observable signs of depression, and these mental health professionals are bound by their ethics and their professionalism to only identify diagnoses that are supported, not just by what they hear, but what they see. So the medical evidence supports a diagnosis, but a diagnosis is not enough for a disability. You need to be limited by the disability. Having a diagnosis of MS is not enough. You need to have not only confirmed diagnosis of MS, but you need on neurological examination to establish that you have the common problems with it, fatigability, discoordination, things like that. So with disability, I'll take on Judge Judy and say that there was someone last night that had COPD. Now, we can all try to judge someone based on whether they seem healthy or not, and maybe they can take care of a baby in this instance. But what I would really challenge anyone to do is to decide, and that they know better than their own doctors, this person's own doctors, how they're limited. If someone has COPD, and let's say they stop smoking, so they're not contributing to their problem, but let's say they have COPD, or in this case on TV, asthma, and they've literally had to have paramedics come to their house, and they've actually almost died, and they use a machine each day for perhaps 2 hours. Maybe they have oxygen at night. There is no way in the context of a TV show that someone should be chastised for having a disability. In fact, that's discriminatory. What I would say to someone who thinks someone doesn't deserve disability, I would say, well, have you read the records? Of course they haven't. Have they talked to the doctors? Well, of course not. if we trust medical schools to train doctors, and we trust psychologists to learn psychology, and we trust experts to understand what disability is, and we trust them to document what's wrong, and furthermore, when they document it, document the severity. You get a moderate or mild depression, that's not disabling. Most people that have breathing issues, using asthma or COPD as an example, they need to be so severe that even set down work full-time is not possible. Now, what Judge Judy may not also recognize is if someone goes to a hearing and gets approved, which most people are denied unjustly, they go to a hearing, they have to face a judge that knows the records, and that judge has a medical expert in a hearing room usually, and they also cross-examine the client. That judge knows a lot more about that person than anyone on TV. That Social Security judge is bound by law, and there are always exceptions to how judges work, but by and large, these judges know a lot more about medicine than others, and they know about that particular person. If someone is disabled under Social Security standards, they cannot work full-time, there's a lot of thought and effort. In fact, it's very difficult to prove asthma alone as disabling unless the attacks are so frequent that they're verified ER visits and there are verified pulmonary function tests. So the challenge here to push back here is to say that with Social Security disability process and the disability itself, we're not having people talk the way on. If someone somehow has a fraudulent doctor and has a judge in on it, which you really have to search and look for this, people are people, you're going to have some invalid cases there, but on a whole, we have many more people that are disabled that can't get on benefits. Many more, and they're going through a year of waiting, and the homelessness and the turmoil and the financial upheaval for things that are out of their control. And I will also address, as I have in a prior discussion, that chemical dependency is, if it's material or causing a problem, they don't approve cases. That's been since '97. That's old news. So with this here, someone has schizophrenia, bipolar, depression, anxiety disorder. We're not talking that it bothers them and they have a little trouble once in a while. I have to prove that they have trouble leaving their house. I have to prove they have trouble with hospitalizations or they're hearing voices, and that is ongoing even with medication. So whatever you see on TV, ignore it entirely. There's a lot more to medicine than just looking at someone and deciding whether they can work. Working is better than disability, but my challenge is to say that find me someone that's disabled having gone to a hearing, and you show me how that hearing was an error, and you take on the judge, and you know better than the judge who met them. So my point through all this message is that the system is difficult. It's a burden of a client to prove they're disabled, and it's very obvious to most people that disability is not as good as working. There are some lazy people that aren't going to be lazy and are going to be too lazy to go to a doctor too. We have people that are disabled that are being denied. We need to improve the system. We need to get rid of reconsideration. We need to advance the appeals council to a level where it actually responds within 6 months, or an automatic remand. If we do these efforts and care about the people that are disabled, we'll go a long way in helping people the way we promise when we take money out of their paychecks every day. All right. If you have more questions, not about policy, but about maybe your Social Security disability claim, if you have any calls, please feel free to use the number at the end of our screen. I'm spent for today. Take care.